We were thrilled to announce earlier this morning that USC is returning to 710 ESPN. USC Football back on 710. USC Men's Basketball on 710. USC Women's Basketball back on 710. And very pleased to announce our next guest, Su'a Cravens, who, of course, is part of the USC football team 2013 through 15. Currently a member of their broadcast team as well. Su'a, it's good to have you. Welcome back to 710.
Thanks for having me, and a big fight on for today's announcement. Very excited to get this partnership back on the road and going.
So let's start right here. USC football kicks off in just a couple of months, really. We're going to have a game here before too long. They open with LSU, and then shortly thereafter, right into the first year ever in the Big Ten. As somebody who was a Pac-12 guy, what's it like having USC in a conference that is no longer West Coast based?
Well, I mean, the homer in me and the former Pac-10 fan and Pac-12 player, of course, I'm a miss the West Coast matchups when you get those Arizona State trap games late in the season, or you fly up to Washington State and you stay in Idaho before you play the Wildcats. I'm a mix all of those old school traditions, but out with the old and in with the new. It's bigger and better things. We got paid USC and UCLA got paid a healthy lump sum to come on over to the Big Ten and shake things up a little bit. Washington and Oregon joined too. So I'm excited to finally play in a conference where it won't be used against us if we have a loss or two when it comes to picking playoff positions.
Yeah, Su'a, you do a good job on the postgame show. I've been driving around listening to you before. Then you do a good job with Jim Hill over at CBS. And what Su'a does is he wears his Cardinal gold on his body. Literally, when he went to USC out of Vista Murrieta, he got the Coliseum tattoo. He got it all. But with Su'a, his Twitter account is really good, too. Because when the defense was getting run over by everybody, he's like, just hire me. I'll coach. Let's go. We got to change things up. So he's not going to hold back. So when you listen to the postgame this year, Su'a's going to be good for you. But Su'a, as a former player and somebody who's involved with the scene, how does USC going to the new conference help them recruit kids from Jersey, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas?
Well, they no longer have to worry about not being able to go back home or play in front of their hometown or home fans or family, because we're playing all over the country now. Your away game can be anywhere from up to 30 minutes up the street to Pasadena, where you're going to play the Bruins, or 6 hours away, we'll play Maryland. So there's a lot of different aspects you can look at this. Recruiting wise, you're going to get to play the best. It's no longer if you want to play the best, you got to go to the SEC. If you want to play the best, you can pick between Big Ten or SEC, and USC is going to get those star-studded matchups against Ohio State, at Michigan in the Big House. You'll still play Oregon, you'll still play Washington, but you'll play Penn State in a whiteout. If you're a true college football fan and a college football junkie like I am, you got to be salivating looking at a lot of these future potential matchups.
Su'a Cravens joining us here on the Travis and Sliwa show. Beto's in for Slee today. You mentioned, Beto, that, Su'a had been critical of the defense, and obviously that had kind of been the thing that SC had struggled with over the last couple of years. And Su'a, I wonder, obviously Lincoln Riley and the offensive mind that he has, the multiple Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks that he's developed, they're going to score points. What does D'Anton Lynn coming over from UCLA to SC bring to that side of the ball? And could you see an improvement that goes from where they were to all of a sudden we're talking about one of the better defenses in the country?
Yeah, well, let alone at the spring game, I saw upgrades on the defensive side. Just DBs actually playing the hands of wide receivers and not looking lost. Guys lining up pre-snap, showing coverage shells, but not necessarily giving away the defensive call. Those were things we didn't see a lot last year. But, Coach Lynn, he brings confusion. He has a special way of lining up in 3 to 4 or 5 different formations a game. He runs a multiple defense, but you never know what coverage he's in or what zone blitz he's bringing. He has looks where it looks like cover one and they drop to a cover two look. A cover two look that's really a 3 buzz or a fire zone. So confusion, the smart defensive players, but no scheme will help the Trojans if we can't get those big uglies on the front seven on both sides of the ball. We're going to need it. Teams like Iowa, those are trap games now. And a team like Iowa has an elite defense almost every single year, and they will beat you with 3 field goals if they have to. So we have to get big. up front on both sides of the ball if we want to compete in the Big Ten.
Yeah, so we all know about the USC Alumni Network. If you want to be a broadcaster and you go to Annenberg, you're good. You're good to go. But the Alumni Network with the football is very important also, and I know you're part of it. How do you, the alumni, football alumni, how do you guys get more involved with Lincoln Riley and make sure that the NIL or the collectives are there? That way kids down the street aren't going to the Georgias or the Texas.
Well, we have to show that these kids that USC football is not only relevant, but it is Los Angeles. And this partnership is one great example of showing the steps that USC football is going to take for the future to compete with everybody else around the country. We have to be relevant. We have to be the premier football team outside of the Rams and Chargers. And I think it might be a little bit more important than the Chargers, but we got to be the premier football team in LA for these kids to see that not only is NIL possible and making a ton of money there, but yes, as you said, marketing yourself, networking, and that's one thing that USC preaches. Their alumni network, I can attest to. I wouldn't have my position or my job that I have currently if I didn't network and rub shoulders with very important people at my time at USC and my time continuing to go to the games and work there. So we got to show that these kids that not only do we provide a football team that you can compete at, but a future beyond football where you will be okay and you will be a man outside of that football player identity. And I think USC has been doing a great job in taking steps towards that.
USC football and both men's and women's basketball are returning to 710 ESPN. Su'a Cravens is part of that football broadcast team. He's joining us here on Travis and Sliwa. And kind of staying in that world, Su'a, talking about the NIL and the portal and all these things that have changed so dramatically in college athletics over the last few years. And I fully support the athletes getting whatever they can get. For such a long time, they were not getting their fair share, and I'm thrilled that they finally are. But it has created this environment where players move around so much. I'm curious, as a former player, when you see this, and a kid that's on one team this year is on the team, the rival in the conference the very next year. I'm glad that they can move. I'm glad that they get what they get. But it is weird, like free agency at the end of every college season.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can call it what it is. It's trash. I don't like that. I don't like the option to decide that you're all in and one time and then you can leave whenever the moment that you don't like what's going on or if you don't like where you are on the depth chart. I committed to USC when I was 16, my junior year, as the number one safety in the country. Didn't even take a visit anywhere else. I didn't need to. I know where I wanted to be. And even when I had 4 to 5 different head coaches at USC, I stuck it out. That's just my prerogative. That's just how I go about things. I'm loyal to a fault, I guess. But I like that these guys have the option to move. Obviously, there are extenuating circumstances that come up that kids can't foresee, and sometimes they need a new fit and a new beginning. But I think that there needs to be some type of rules and guidelines implemented to where if you're accepting NIL, they need to be one-year deals where the moment you accept the NIL and sign a contract, you are locked in for the bare minimum of a year. Well, there is no decommit in the spring or decommit in the summer and transfer. I think there definitely needs to be some limitations to this transfer portal. But we like the freedom for these kids. However, there needs to be some type of responsibility and liability on both parties.
All right, Su'a Cravens, I always knew you were going to be a broadcaster. You're a good football player, stand out in high school, college, played in the NFL. But you know how I knew?
How'd you know?
Remember in high school, you used to come on a Friday night radio show after your games?
HF Game Time?
That was me. It was you and I. So before this station had the Lakers, for one season, we would do a Friday night recap show, and I would call the different schools and be like, okay, who's your star? Let's get them on. And we would do an interview with the high school kids. So Su'a would become our go-to guy. Like every other week, we would call Su'a because you want to spread the love, but he was so good, we would have him on towards the end, and he would be calling. This is like, what, 2000, whatever you're in high school, your senior year, Su'a. So you would
2011, 2012.
Yeah, 2011, 12. So we would do the show, and Su'a was calling from the bus.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he was doing it. So I was like, this kid's going to have a bright future, and he definitely did. We never met, but I'm proud of you. Congratulations. You do a good job on the postgame show, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been logging hours since I was a teenager. And you want to know something? You guys used to get me in trouble because, I was looked at as Mr. 5-star in the back talking on the phone to the news again. Man. So, my team didn't really like it, but I would always answer the call.
Like I told Kurt Ruth, man, don't worry about him. He's not going to be in trouble. Don't worry. We take care of him.
It worked out. It worked out for sure. One more before we let you go. We're talking with Su'a Cravens. We made the announcement earlier today that SC football, men's and women's basketball coming back to 710. I'm sure the answer is not easily, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you replace Caleb Williams?
Whew. I don't think you can replace Caleb Williams. I think that it'd be a waste of mental time and energy trying to even figure out how to do that. I think the best cover for losing out on the talent as big as Caleb was on offense is having a stout defense. And Iowa, again, I bring them up all the time. I've been watching a lot of Iowa. CFB 25s or 24s dropping soon. So their defense is something that we need to model our game after. When you don't have an explosive offense or an offense that can get those chunk plays or an offense where you need 12 to 14 play drives that might end in field goals, you need a defense that gets the ball back into the offensive hand and creates more time of possession so we can clock manage. And I know it might not be the pretty girl at the ball that everybody wants to see, but there's nothing wrong with bringing home a 7 every now and then, So we need this defense to be stout all game, all 4 quarters, and not put so much pressure on Miller Moss to be Caleb Williams.
Su'a Cravens, part of the USC broadcast team, which you will hear right here on 710. Football, men's and women's basketball returning to 710 ESPN LA. Su'a, it's good talking with you. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you having me on. Fight